They say he's distant, that he keeps too much to himself, that he used to be warmer, but they didn't see what it cost him to explain, to defend, to keep peace while bleeding inside. They didn't see the years he gave him too many chances, the nights he stayed silent, not because he had nothing to say, but because he knew no one would truly hear him. He's not cold. He's careful. He's not closed off. He's conserving energy, because after a certain age, he's learned that the world doesn't reward loudness with love. It often mistakes noise for connection. And he's done pretending to feel safe in rooms that keep asking him to speak louder just to be respected. Let's look closely not at the words he stopped saying, but at the silence he now wears like armor, because he didn't stop talking out of pride. He stopped to protect something deeper. His peace, his pace, his worth. He doesn't argue anymore, because he's done defending his existence. There was a time when he fought hard not to win, but to be seen. He'd explain every intention, justify every silence, apologize for feelings that weren't even his fault, not because he was wrong, but because he believed that love meant being understood. He thought, if I just say it the right way, if I stay calm enough, if I give one more chance, maybe this time she'll hear me. But the truth? Some people don't want to understand you. They want to stay angry. They want you off balance because if you're confused, they feel in control. Eventually he realized, no explanation changes a heart that's already closed. No perfect phrasing softens someone who's more committed to blame than to healing. So now, he doesn't argue. If you twist his words, he lets them stay twisted. If you assume the worst, he lets you carry that weight alone. He's not bitter. He's just tired of bleeding emotional energy into conversations designed to trap him. Arguments aren't proof of passion. They're often signs of fear dressed up as fire. And he's not in the business of justifying his existence anymore. Not to partners, not to strangers, not even to family. He speaks when it builds something. He's silent when it doesn't. Because his calm, it's no longer up for debate. He chooses stillness over stimulation because motion doesn't always mean meaning. There was a time he couldn't sit still. Vacants booked solid. Social gatherings he didn't even enjoy. Noise in the car, noise in the house, noise in his own mind. He didn't know it back then, but he was afraid of silence, because silence meant facing himself. And for a while he wasn't sure he liked what he'd find. So he chased motion, the illusion of life. Busy became a badge. Stimulation became survival. But over time, he noticed something. All that noise, it didn't fill him. It just distracted him from the emptiness underneath. Now, he wakes up slowly. He watches the way the light moves across his kitchen floor as the sun rises. He drinks his coffee without checking his phone. He reads without rushing. He walks without earbuds, letting the world speak softly again. Because in stillness, he finally hears things that matter. His breath, his thoughts, his truth. He no longer fears quiet. He craves it. Because in a world that confuses movement with meaning, he's learned that presence is what brings life, not performance. He's not bored. He's in rhythm. And that difference, it saved him. He measures connection differently now, not by words, but by energy. He used to think connection meant constant talking, daily check-ins, long calls, endless texting. He thought, if we're always in touch, we must be close. But time taught him otherwise. He's been in relationships where the conversation never stopped, but nothing was ever really said. Where attention was given, but presence was missing. Where words were plenty, but safety was rare. Now, he notices the spaces between the words. The tone, not just the text. The silence and how it feels. He watches how someone enters a room. Do they bring calm or commotion? Can they sit beside him in silence without reaching for their phone? Can they feel his tiredness without asking for a performance? Because the version of love he seeks now isn't loud, it's steady. He no longer needs constant reassurance. He doesn't need fireworks. He needs a woman who knows how to breathe beside him without tension. Texting back fast doesn't impress him. But showing up with softness when he's quiet, that melts him. He's not looking for excitement anymore. He's looking for a kind of connection that knows how to listen, even when nothing is said. Because to him now, true intimacy isn't proven in how much we talk. It's in how deeply we're allowed to rest in each other's presence. He walked away from loud love because noise isn't intimacy. He remembers it clearly, the kind of love that came in storms. Words thrown like knives, apologies whispered like band-aids. The cycle was always the same. Explosion, silence, passion, repeat. At first it felt alive. He mistook the intensity for intimacy, the chaos for chemistry, the emotional roller coaster for something real, because it felt like love. It demanded everything. It made his heart race, and then made him disappear inside himself. It took years to understand. Not everything that shakes you is meaningful. Not everyone who says, "I love you," knows how to protect you. And not all passion is love. Some of it is unhealed pain, dressed in urgency. Now, he views love differently. He doesn't want the high highs and low lows anymore. He doesn't want to fight just to feel connected. He doesn't want apologies that follow destruction like clockwork. He wants warmth without a fuse, understanding without volume, love without a bruised spirit. So when people say, "You seem so careful now," he smiles, not because he's afraid to love again, but because he's learned that anything that costs him peace will cost him more than it gives. He's not cold, he's clear, and clarity is what finally saved him. He doesn't entertain what drains him because time is his currency now. There was a time he stayed too long, at dinners that turned into performance reviews, in conversations filled with veiled judgment, at gatherings where he had to smile more than he felt. He used to think it was kindness, to endure the small talk, to laugh at the joke that hurt a little, to be nice, even when his soul was begging to leave. But now, he values energy the way others value time, because to him, they're the same. Every drained evening means a morning he must rebuild. Every forced connection means a part of him must recover. So he stopped explaining. If a room feels heavy, he exits. If a conversation turns transactional, he lets it fade. If someone drains more than they pour, he doesn't stay to negotiate. He doesn't owe his presence to comfort others at the cost of abandoning himself. He no longer listens to volume or charisma. He listens to his body. A tight chest, a tired spirit, a sudden headache. He trusts those signals now. Some call it rude. He calls it wisdom. Because at this stage in life, he knows time isn't just minutes on a clock. It's emotional oxygen. And he won't waste another breath pretending to enjoy what depletes him. He speaks less but means more. There was a time when silence felt dangerous. So he filled it. With explanations. With apologies he didn't owe. With words meant to smooth what others refused to understand. He used to think that if he just explained a little better, softened his tone, found the right way to say it, then maybe they'd get him. But they didn't. Because some people don't listen to understand. They listen to respond, to control, to win. So now, his quiet, not withdrawn, just intentional. His yes is no longer out of guilt. His no doesn't need cushioning. He says less not because he has less to say, but because he's refined the difference between noise and truth. When he says, "I'm proud of you," he means it. When he says, "I need space," he's not inviting a debate. When he says nothing, it's not disconnection. It's trust that his presence is enough. He no longer competes for airtime, no longer performs for understanding. He's not mysterious. He's mastered. And if you've earned the version of him that speaks, know this. Every word he shares has passed through layers of thought, restraint, and heart. Because after years of being misunderstood, he no longer speaks to be liked. He speaks to be real. He doesn't try to be understood by everyone because he values self-understanding more. He used to bend. Not his values, but his expression of them. Smile when he disagreed. Laugh when something didn't feel right. Nod, just to keep the peace. Approval felt like oxygen back then. He thought, if they like me, I'm safe. I belong. So he became likable, adaptable, digestible. But with every small compromise, a piece of him faded. Until one day, he looked in the mirror and saw a version of himself he no longer respected. Someone who fit in, but felt invisible. That moment didn't break him. It woke him up. Now, he no longer shapeshifts. He no longer edits his truth for other people's comfort. He knows that not everyone will get him, and that's no longer his burden to carry. He's not unkind. He's just unbothered by misunderstanding, because he's learned this. Clarity with yourself matters more than comfort for others. And when you stop needing to be explained, you start becoming real. So if people call him distant now, that's okay, because he'd rather be misread in truth than loved for a version of himself that no longer exists. And that peace? It's worth every silence he chooses. He protects his peace like it's his home, because it took too long to build. There was a time when he opened every door too wide, let people in quickly, shared his space, his time, his heart, as if peace were an endless resource. He thought being open was being loving, that giving second chances meant being compassionate, that tolerating chaos meant being strong. But all it brought was noise. Disruption masked as connection. Emotional messes left for him to clean up alone. And one day, exhausted and emptied, he realized peace is not something that just happens. It's something you build piece by piece, moment by moment. And what takes years to construct can be undone in a single conversation with the wrong energy. Now, his peace is his home, not a physical place, but a rhythm. It's the soft routine of a quiet morning, the pause before responding, the silence he no longer feels the need to fill. He protects that rhythm the way some guard valuables, not out of fear but out of reverence. If someone arrives with drama, manipulation, or instability, he no longer tries to fix them. He simply closes the door. No loud exit, no explanation, just stillness, preserve. Because for him now, peace isn't a luxury you visit. It's a place you protect and never again surrender. He's not cold, he's clear. He doesn't raise his voice anymore, not because he's afraid of confrontation, but because he no longer seeks control through volume. He's learned that what's real doesn't need to be shouted. That presence isn't proven through dominance, but through steadiness. Now, he speaks with intention. He listens more than he responds. He doesn't interrupt, not out of passivity, but out of patience. When he laughs, it's quieter but deeper. When he offers a compliment, it's not flattery. It's alignment with what he truly sees. People say he's changed, that he's less fun, that he seems cold, but they're mistaking clarity for detachment. He's not emotionally distant, he's emotionally disciplined. He doesn't react out of impulse anymore. He responds when it's meaningful. He's felt the weight of being misunderstood too many times to keep throwing his truth into rooms that don't value it. And if you get close enough, if you sit with him in the quiet, you'll feel it. The warmth is still there. It's not gone. It's just no longer begging to be received, rescued, or returned. Because he finally understands, being misunderstood by others is far less painful than betraying the clarity he fought so long to earn. He didn't stop loving. He just stopped leaking. He didn't give up on connection. He gave up on convincing. There's a version of manhood they never told us about. The one where strength isn't noise, but knowing when to walk away. Where wisdom isn't loud, but gently refusing what no longer nourishes us. He's not cold. He's calm. He's not guarded. He's grounded. In a world obsessed with performance, he's chosen presence. In a culture of overexposure, he's chosen discretion. Not because he's broken, but because he rebuilt himself, and this time, quietly. So if you've ever sat in silence, not out of fear, but out of freedom, you're not alone. Drop a quiet comment. Peace is the life I protect now. Because after everything, some men don't need looter love. They just need space where they don't have to explain why they went quiet.